other subsect within other kin that go odder and identify as angels. And and even like, I had a friend of mine who was researching them who was telling me about meeting someone who thought who claimed he was another kin of the Archangel Michael. And I'm like, no, just no.
We're entering Gary Stu territory.
You even have some of we're going to talk about that at the in the like extraterrestrials, and angels and stuff like that. That's all with that subset. It's you're going forever with this stuff.
Well, I can see
we're extraterrestrials. Once a month, you have a weird urge to abduct people and conduct probes on them.
We got to get this.
Are we live?
Yeah, but we got to get this.
Of course we are.
It looks like we're actually live. I love how nobody thinks to mention this.
Well, this is
not that this is bad.
This is the early part of the show that we cut off.
Yeah, we are in fact live.
Of course we are.
Just get out of the bathroom.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I am, as always, your host, demonologist and paranormal investigator Kevin Mears. I am joined by my co-host,
author Brian McKinley,
and our sidekick,
Misha.
And as you can see, we have a guest in the studio tonight.
Yay!
Why don't you introduce yourself, since, to be completely honest, I've forgotten your name.
My name is Jabbar Martin, a.k.a. Trismegistus Aga Khan, and I'll get into that later, what all of that means. But I am from Iron Garden, Skylands Gateway Halo, the haven for New Jersey. The entire state of New Jersey so far, with Skylands and Gateway Halo, and I'll explain all of that stuff later. And thank you guys for allowing me to come and talk.
Absolutely,
no, it's a pleasure to have you. I mean, I spoke at Iron Garden last year, and you guys were phenomenal. I kind of wondered, it's like, okay, what am I getting myself into? But you guys were phenomenal.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Like, God, was it like 2 or 3 years? Because you just had your 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, 3-year anniversary.
And I realized that I've been there, I think, almost 3 years.
You did it 3.
Like, I was there pretty early on, I realized.
Yeah.
So you've been stuck with this bozo for a while now.
His top hat game is almost the level, like I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on and speaking and supporting us. You're an awesome demonologist, and we love you. We definitely want you to come back.
Anytime, you guys give me the date, I'll be happy to do it.
Definitely. And Brian McKinley, we love you already. And thank you for joining us to help build
I am
community.
Officially a citizen now.
And we love you, your books, and you're awesome, author, and keep on doing what you're doing. I just definitely want to say that.
Yeah, he's pretty good. We keep him around here for a reason.
Well, mostly for comic relief, but
it's a reason.
Every once in a
I
while.
told you recently that I finished the audiobook for Drawing Dead.
Oh, no, you didn't tell me you finished. You told me you were doing it.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it is a long audiobook.
It is. It's a long regular book.
What was it, like 11 hours?
13, I think.
13 hours.
Ancient Blood was
sit
like
in a
10
car
or 13
for
or 11.
8 hours a day.
It's a
so
long book.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't do that anymore. She sits in the car, the same car now, but only 4 hours a day.
So if you guys want, I could give like a quick brief history of like Iron Garden.
Please do. That's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, give everybody a grounding of like what is an other kind, what's a night kind.
Okay.
That.
Right. Definitely. That's good. I'll start with that. Like, okay, so you have the goth scene, which has been around for forever. I'm kind of new to the goth scene. I'm probably like 15 years in it.
That's new.
That's new.
Yeah, that's new.
Wow.
I mean, I don't go back, to the early 80s, because it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So I kind of come in on it in the 2000s, and at the end of the 90s and the 2000s, and hanging out at QX clubs like QXTs in Newark, which is dark, is goth. As well as pyramid clubs and different clubs in New York. This community has been around for a while, and some of the elders of the Iron Garden have been in it for that long, like Madam X in particular, who's the leader and the founder of the Iron Garden, has been in the scene since the early 90s, probably going back to the 80s, you know.
Shout out to Madam X.
Madam X. Her with Sonus. You're there of the House of the Dreaming. I'll get into all of that about the different houses and stuff like that. But Iron Garden in particular, our place that we meet as QXTs, which is the golf club I just said in Newark. They've been going. QXTs has been around for about 26 years. They celebrated their 26th anniversary.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's a pretty nice club
still
too.
Going.
Yeah,
It's
beautiful. It's got all that stonework and stuff.
Yeah, right. They just redone.
Yeah.
Great DJs, DJ Mind Solvent. Just want to shout him out. Damien, all the awesome DJs that keep. And what they do, why I love them so much, is they continue to play the music that we listened to in the 90s and the 2000s. Everything is still played. Which is like, you know, gives me a little bit of nostalgia, you know, like I haven't left the era, you know. I still, you know?
I know that feeling. See, for me, that's the 80s.
Okay,
when they do the 80s nights, they play that music. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Right, definitely. You know, I like Skinny Puppy. Skinny Puppy is one of my favorites. But Iron Garden per se, it's like so you got your goth, you got your nightkind. Within that, it's like a goth subculture. You got people that are in goth, but then I guess you have certain people that wanted to get more spiritual, or they're looking for more of a way of direction where they can remain goth and seek spirituality or seek some type of deeper ritual or deeper meaning in the community. So we have, first of all, you have a lot of people that identify in the goth community, like you'll have trance goths and different types of techno goths. So then you have people that identify with vampires. And
always a favorite.
Yeah,
of course.
I can't imagine why Brian's particularly fond of that group.
No reason.
Werewolves and fairies and fae and all different types of like pagans, you know, witches, Wiccans, you know, Vikings, you name it. So it's a lot of different type of people that want to bring their spirituality in with the goth scene. So we set up, matter of fact, Madam X, because Iron Garden, a lot of people don't realize that it was just started 3 years ago again, but it actually was one of the first courts. It's like basically a court is just like a meeting place, or like a place where different houses and vampire houses or werewolf packs or whatever could come all together in like a haven to discuss different politics and different or do ritual or different place. It's a place for the Nightkind community to gather. So it was originally started back in like 1996, 97. Madam X was back. She was one of the original ones to actually start it back then. I wasn't around for that era. It was at QXT's then.
Sort of like the OGs. Except
yeah, she's the OG.
She's the OV. The original vampire.
I don't know. OG still works. Original goth.
Original goth. I just like OV. I think that's kind of cool.
And she helped start out a lot of the scene from New Jersey to New York to Pennsylvania to Georgia, all the way to England. Portugal. It's Madam X. She's fat. She's done a lot. She has done a lot. So she started the Iron Garden. It had closed down. That was before my time. She reopened it again 3 years ago, and then that's when I got introduced to it as a Nightkind person, who has darker passions, and I like the dark, rough, rock music and stuff, and I was introduced to coming down to the Iron Garden and checking out the vampires. Now everybody in the Iron Garden is not really like it's not all vampires. It's eclectic. It's a haven of everybody, of different pagans, of fairies, werewolves, werekind, otherkin, vampires, and you know, you don't need, and if you just want to be a cool goth person, you just you can go.
I don't fit any of those. I'm a Christian and I fit in just fine.
If you're a Christian, whatever.
No, exactly. And I'm not
Whatever
really.
you are.
I mean, I remember when I was first invited there to go. I went up there thinking, like, I had no idea what to expect. I'm going up there thinking I'm going to run into, some basement full of people that all look like Marilyn Manson, and just a bunch of like really scary, freaky people that are taking themselves very seriously and saying we're vampires, damn it,
right.
and all that. And what surprised me and what made me come back was just how approachable and normal and friendly you all were. And it was it was like going and hanging out with a bunch of gamers or any other group that I like.
We got that as well.
For me, I'm very much a folklorist as well as a practical investigator. So there's part of me that's going, it's like, how am I going to get through the night of this without getting into on a soapbox about what vampires actually are as opposed to what people think they are. And it's like, no, nobody drove me up the wall with the types of thing. Because I've met a couple of people who are like, oh, I'm a vampire. I'm like, you've read too much Anne Rice.
Now that's the thing. Like, okay, and as far as like Iron Garden is concerned, we embrace the difference. Like it's never a debate. We love for everybody to add their philosophy there, whatever they feel that they are. That's the first thing. We set up a safe haven for people that maybe identify themselves as a vampire or some type of a werewolf or a werecat or a fairy. It's a place where they could come and they won't be ostracized for it. They could share that, and so it's not that type. We want that. You're a demonologist. Bring that. All that knowledge.
Which is why I really like. Despite my misgivings of am I going to wind up giving a lecture? It's like, no, actually, you guys were awesome. I liked it. I thought the talk I led about spiritual vampires basically was very well received. I had a blast listening to the questions.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, and again to talk on that, like to get on that a little bit is you got again I'm not a vampire myself. I actually identify with. I'm a Therian. I call myself I'm a Therian, and it's because I have the animal within me. To identify with like the indigenous cultures of like South America or Africa, or China or Tibet or whatever. In a lot of indigenous cultures, I identify with like a totem, like an animism type of Therian. I identify with the jaguar. Like I'm more of a were-jaguar, and which is also my sign is Leo.
Me too. There we go.
Oh, awesome! That's why I like.
I'm a lion. Yeah, there we go.
So it's like I from the heavens all the way on down to the earth to when I was born, I just feel that apex predator, that cat, that panthera, that feline, that that energy, and I can see like all the Aztecs and the different cultures that use these type of animals and even shamanistic ways of spirituality would identify with some of these animals. I can see how that can make you more powerful. Like it can be, you can use it for instances where you need to bring bravery out of yourself, or courage, or to deal with any type of problems and issues. I think it's like it's definitely a thing that you go deep down inside of yourself to pull out, to help you. And since I've been in this community, I've met all kinds. And I don't, because everybody's trying to find themselves and use whatever they need to make themselves get through this, get through life. So I don't knock any,
No.
Whatever you say you are, it's like
it's all.
It's really a trait that you heavily identify with, or at least admire in something that you want to put into your day-to-day life.
So I have met a couple of other folks of the otherkin and Therian things like that before, and I've had it described to me in a number of ways. Some of the people I've talked to feel like part of, not necessarily that they're people who think they're born in the wrong body, as it were. Right. But I've also met people who feel like part of their soul is animalistic. Yeah, would that be part of you? Or is it more of a symbol? I mean,
for me, it is the same way. I feel that evolutionary evolution, going back to evolution. Yes, like I feel maybe one of my lives back in the Pleistocene era, I was a jaguar, maybe, and it's in my DNA. Like I can see and I can believe and see that I can probably have these certain feelings because I probably was a jaguar at one point. So I definitely think it is a part of me, not just a spiritual or identification. I really think I was that, and if I meditate long enough or get myself out into certain parts of nature, and I could probably shapeshift and go to that, travel through my DNA and go back to those times, go back 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years when I walked the earth, when animals ruled the planet. There was no before humanity, because I mean, when you really think about it, we still are animal. Like,
yeah. Actually, just the other week was Darwin Day. And
right. There you go.
Yeah, it's like, no, we are in fact still animals. People ask, if one of the classic questions, if we evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? We're still monkeys.
We're still primates.
Well, people who ask that don't understand how it actually works.
Nor do they understand that basically there's classification of inanimate object, plant, animals.
I also really like what you're saying. It's just because thinking about it from an anthropological perspective, thinking about it from even a magical perspective, since that is part of what I've studied over the years, it makes sense. Because like you're saying, there's a lot of cultures throughout history, Aztecs with the jaguar, Africans with lions and things like that, the Norse with the bears and the wolves, that have that totemic relationship with an animal that based on the folk, if you look at the older folklore werewolves, you put on a skin to change.
And that's another thing I wanted to bring out. Like as I was studying about like vampires, they also are shapeshifters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've heard that they can shapeshift into a wolf or a rat or any other mystical bats.
Different forms.
They do bats.
Bats are very modern, actually.
Stoker mostly made that up.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mostly because he saw the vampire bats in South America.
Okay.
And he thought, then vampires should turn it, but there's actually no folklore of
which is ironic, given how very much in most cultures bats are a symbol of evil.
Yeah, a lot of
You'd
times.
think somebody would have associated them with vampires at some point.
There is one type of vampire that's actually associated with bats, and it's the ones in that are actually from Africa and South America.
Okay.
That hang from the trees with these like iron feet, these hooks, and they grab passersby. But they are like these grotesque bat human creatures.
I've heard about this before.
They're
like
scary.
I forgot exactly the name of what they call them, but they're like almost like size of a human. Type.
I think they're like.
I can't remember the name either.
Anselm or something like that.
Come on, Brian. This is your thing.
I know.
This is one of the big reasons we keep you around, aside from comic relief.
I have it in my head. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Well, that's the thing that's interesting, and I think skepticism about something's aside. The thing I respect about the subcultures and the mindsets we're talking about is these symbols are very universal. There are ideas of shapeshifters all over the world, in every culture, in every society. There are ideas of vampires in every culture, in every society, and it is kind of a new way of tapping into much older ideas.
Right, exactly. Bringing back, not only indigenous culture, indigenous styles, indigenous spirituality into modern times, and where kids, young people from people of all ages could go deeper, with it as well, and again, to get back on the scene itself, it started to grow, the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia. Now it's like the vampire community itself, which is the vampires are kind of the one they call it. It's called the vampire community because they're the ones who kind of made the laws, the bylaws, and it's more like almost like a Freemasonic type of structure, and initiations and different stuff. Semi, quasi initiations and different stuff like that. Then it starts separating into houses and courts. And now you have houses and courts from here all the way to England, international. It's and actually the scene that we're a part of is an international scene. Like Madame X, her house herself, the House of the Dreaming, is international. Like she has members all over the United States, all over England. I mean, Portugal again. South America. It's like California. It's wide. I actually have to go visit a court. I got invited to go visit a court by Washington D.C.
Oh wow!
And Virginia, and I've been to courts in New Orleans, and there's Texas, and I mean this thing is Los Angeles, Colorado. Shout out to all you guys in the vampire community, Colorado, Texas,
Nice.
Virginia, all you guys.
It's got to be hard to be a vampire in Texas.
Yeah,
That's a rough haul.
Logan South. Yeah. Shout out to you guys. Those, I would say that that's a pretty rough state to identify with this. This,
I don't know. Blood sucking and Republicans kind of go hand in hand.
Well,
Says the the most right wing person
sure
out here.
You're probably but I even think that there's vampires and people in the subculture that's on the left and the right.
I'm pretty sure there are.
A conservative. You can be conservative, I guess, and still, like it can happen. I can see it.
on certain topics.
Probably you find people that fall a little close, like right of center, more than hardcore conservatives.
Right.
Although there wasn't the
Liberal.
one vampire who ran for Congress.
He was
on the right?
he was a vampire role player. Like he was a guy who played in the games.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't like identified.
There was
he
the
didn't
one guy
identify
who,
as like a real vampire.
From everything I saw, seemed to really identify as vampire.
Oh, really? Okay, because the one news story I remember, he was a role player because I remember that coming out.
Now, in I've heard stories about, particularly in New York, and I'm going back to the beginnings of the vampire community in New York with the Father Sebastians. He's a famous impresario of the vampire community. He does the Endless Night vampire balls all over.
I've heard of him.
And Father Vincent, and these guys are the big names in the beginnings of the vampire community in New York. And what I just wanted to touch on is that I've met all different forms and different types of people. Like there are some people who actually are vampires, meaning sanguine.
Yeah.
They partake of. Right. It's Black Veil,
Blood
the secretive, blood and stuff like that. It's a secret society. That's the depths of the secrets, and you would have to be initiated into that to know who they are or whatever. Sure. But you have your role players. You have people that I heard it started from a role playing game. In the
which I still play.
And me.
Yeah. Awesome. We're still in it.
And
we're nerds. If anyone else hasn't figured it out by now.
Hey, it's the day of the geeks and nerds. I'm a geek and I'm a nerd. I love
awesome.
It. Besides this, I study astronomy and I go into philosophy and a whole bunch of
awesome.
Yeah. So we can talk about that as well. But started from like a role playing game. Then it started morphing into more serious things because there's certain people who felt as though they are really vampires. They need blood to sustain themselves, and started mixing with the BDSM community and just in a lot of different ways that a lot of people like can take it, and because of that, you set up the courts and these houses so it could be like a secret society, so that way people can be protected, their identity is protected behind doing this type of stuff.
So,
I looked it up, by the way. Yeah, Jonathan Starkey. He is a self-admitted vampire, and yes, he ran as a Republican.
Wow. Okay, he's not the one I was
for president, no less.
Really?
He's not the one I was thinking of, but
Didn't make it into
I
I don't even think he made it up into the primaries.
I'm so
But he did try to
surprised.
run for president,
Right.
and he has run for Congress.
another person name I have to mention. Then you could get your Goddess Rosemary. Goddess Rosemary. Hello, House Shahaja. Oh, she awesome. She's been around. She's one of the originals herself from the 70s of the New York scene.
Oh, wow.
Goddess Rosemary. So
Goes
that's
all the
another
way back.
big name that is in this community to help build it. Help build it up and everything.
So
That
what?
actually was going to ask, what do you think separates a otherkin from just having a deep connection to? Like we were discussing it before, like some people identified as the Archangel Michael. It's like, you sure you're not just confusing it with a deep connection to the Archangel Michael?
Well, like I said, it's different levels for different people. Like you have some people that probably would just feel like it's a psychological connection or some type of spiritual connection, or
they're just a fan.
or they're a fan of it.
Yeah.
Like, just want to dress like it or be seen in pictures looking like it. And again, they whatever. I don't knock it, and especially if it's gonna help you or if it's something that you
See, with a lot of
need,
it, that's how I feel. It's like, personally, I'm sorry with respect. If you're not a walking corpse, I don't consider you a vampire. I'm kind of
Right.
old school on that. But if it helps you get through your day and you're not, and people want to drink blood and it's between consenting adults, it's their own business.
Right.
I don't care. Do what makes you happy. Just keep it safe, sane, and consensual. Yeah.
Right.
But the ones that really tend to grate on me are more like, it's like, okay, now you're saying you're the Archangel Michael. Now we're getting into my religion. Now you're messing in my religion here. That's a little.
Yeah.
It's like now I feel a need to explain why you're wrong.
Right.
And the connection thing is different. I feel a connection to him too, but I don't claim to be an archangel incarnated.
Well,
in
you know
physical
what?
form.
Somebody might think they're possessed by the who's to say, or that's their higher self, and he's coming to protect. He's coming to protect.
20 years
them,
of doing what I do, it's like I said again, the identify and that kind of thing, and he is the protector.
Right.
Okay, I can grant you. It's like, but you're not the Archangel Michael. and I'm sorry, I don't go around claiming to be a Greek god. So please don't go around claiming to be an important figure in my religion.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, you get personal with that one.
Yeah, it becomes a kind of a respect thing.
There is that.
Yeah.
So the question that I had, which we had talked about before, what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about the whole scene that you can kind of answer and speak on?
I would say that let me see, misconceptions. The first one, main one, like you said when you first came to the Iron Garden, people think because I got contacts or fangs or claws or whatever the case may be that I'm gonna kill him, or I'm a murderer, or which I'm not. You can find that in anything.
Yeah. Or even more likely, you want to drink their blood.
I want to drink.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm gonna bite your neck.
Which is a little less extreme than you're gonna take a knife and stab me to death.
I have to admit, I was.
What people are afraid of and think will kill them.
Oh, I was almost disappointed by the end of my first night that I had not seen any blood drinking going on.
See, on that end, I didn't have a problem because I just read up enough and known enough people in the culture that I didn't think that was going to happen. Right. It was like I said, it's the some-overweight fanboy who's convinced that he's an actual vampire. And I've run into over the years, usually on the internet, people who were it's like no, they don't just think, oh, I need blood to survive. I've seen people claim to be they dug themselves out of a grave. They're a walking.
Right. They think they're immortal.
They're immortal, and it's like.
I haven't met that one yet, but who knows?
I think on that point, we've officially entered Gary Stu territory where they need to make themselves feel more important than they actually are.
There's the comment that Buffy made in the Buffy versus Dracula.
Oh,
I met more than one overweight, pimply-faced fanboy who claimed to be Lestat.
Yeah, that was a good line.
It was kind of that end of the spectrum I was worried about, and I didn't find that either. I mean, I know there are people that are sanguinarians and things like that but again, everybody comes across as quite sane.
Yeah, right. Sane, and so basically they're you would even think that this person is kind of cuckoo or whatever, But no, they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly everything they're saying. There are people in all different walks of life, like from doctors to lawyers to police. All different spectrums of people, scientists and stuff, different, all together that is in this community that identify with vampires and werewolves and this spirituality. Another thing I would say is that they're not like people would think that they're not intelligent, or again would be. A company owner or CEO or PhD
it's going to be some mouth breathing living in their mother's basement, which is like
exactly.
Anyone who spent age like the time in the goth subculture in general knows that age. That it's like, oh no, you meet some of the smartest people you can imagine.
Exactly right. Very, very intelligent.
Very
I remember Dr. Catherine Ramsland when she wrote her book talking about meeting somebody at one of the clubs in New York who was covered in tattoos and had all sorts of crazy piercings. Right. And the guy was a PhD student in mathematics at MIT.
That's one big misconception right there. Do not think because this person looks like that or identifies with this, they're not brilliant,
Yeah, they're not all a bunch of like teenage.
My experience, I tend to think that,
right, exactly.
My experience with highly intelligent people is the most intelligent people I've met don't fit neatly in, it's this
exactly
round hole, peg, square hole.
Right, that is it, right?
And you find a lot of them in the, you find them in the goth, you find them in this kind of subculture, you find them in the geek subcultures because of the fact they don't fit in with normal people.
Exactly, right. They identify with it. And if I could, I just want to actually touch on.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Show if I could show this. The camera.
Yes. We will try to get a better shot of that.
Okay.
But tell everybody about that.
All right,
coming up.
Coming up March 17th, Saturday at 12 noon. The Animal Within. Me and one of the founders of the Iron Garden, Erwith Sonis, who's actually the co-founder of the House of the Dreaming. We are together holding a discussion circle. The Animal Within at the Dark Side of the Khan. At the Radisson Hotel, that whole Jeff Mock Dark Side of the Khan event that happens very big, happens in New Jersey.
Now it's
Although Jeff's no longer associated with
Jeff's
it.
no longer associated.
I must say that he's no longer associated.
And since Brian will be there, we'll be promoting this more as time progresses.
Right. It's still going on.
I get to be the
you'll get some more mentions.
So this particular, me and Wolf Sonis, we're doing the Animal Within, where we're both Therian. He identifies with Therian as well. He is like Wolf, Therian, werewolf. I'm where Jaguar, and we're gonna have a discussion circle about otherkin and animal kind. And we're gonna open the floor up for people who identify as wolves, bears, reptiles, dragons. Avians, I can't even pronounce this word. Kitsunes.
Kitsune.
Yeah, that's
foxes.
like foxes and
Yes.
stuff. Even ET, extraterrestrials, people who identify.
I got some questions on that, but because we're coming up on
That
the
one's
half
going
hour,
to be fun.
we're up on the half hour. I did want to give out our phone number out in
Okay.
case anybody wants to call. Has a question for you. So it's 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. Feel free to call in. For that matter, if you're on Facebook, you want to hop in the chat. I am monitoring the chat, so you can ask questions through there if you're at work or otherwise unable or unwilling to call in. So here's a question that we've been bouncing around between our one friend. what, if anything, is the difference between the otherkin and Therian and the furry community?
Okay, right. Good. I'm glad you. That's a good question.
Had to drag the furries in.
See, I also know a bunch of furries.
Beautiful. Okay, now those are subcultures of I would say, sometimes they'll generalize them as otherkin, meaning they're other than vampire. I guess that kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I guess that moniker happened within the as like a subset of the vampire. So you became like an otherkin, meaning you're not vampire, but you're in the vampire community. So you're otherkin, and then when you've been labeled as otherkin, so then you have the subcultures of the I even actually wrote that down because I definitely wanted to touch on that. I would say they're the fairies. I don't know too much about fairies, but I've heard people,
Well, it's a subject that has gone in a lot of debate. There's two people I follow their YouTube channel that constantly make jokes that they're not a furry, and they don't even understand it and themselves because they keep getting conflicting information.
Right.
See, I've talked to people that consider themselves furries that describe themselves the way you describe the Therian thing, and
I think what happened was, I think as it developed a little bit more, it became like with social media, it became like an online thing, and people started to, like, Ethereans are more, I would say, like you said, they're more shamanistic, or they're more like a anthropomorphic religion. It's like more of a religious spiritual aspect to them, to it. I would say that the other kins are more like, they believe that they shapeshift. They're more like they're bear kind, or if they're bird kind, or if they're reptilian or dragon. They believe that they shapeshift into these creatures. So these are lycanthropy. They're more were kind. The other kins, they believe that they shapeshift, and they take that very seriously. The furries, I'm not going to really I heard.
Yeah, I've heard it's more about dressing up. It's more of an enjoyment.
From what I've seen, having known a bunch of them, it seems like they fit the spectrum.
They like to have fun or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I've met ones that fit across the spectrum. People who consider themselves animals on some level. People who have a totemic type of relationship with the people that just show, dress in the costumes and look at the artwork.
Right. And then you even have other kin, I would say, that like fairies. Fae.
Which I'm just sitting here realizing this other kin thing is not as new as we think it is when you consider the Oathstalkers and the
not at all.
Berserkers.
Right.
Berserkers.
Yeah. Right.
No, it's very
here's also a good thing about that. The idea of changelings, specifically, the idea of humans that are part Fae, is certainly nothing new. On the other hand, as recently as the early 1900s, people were put to death because people thought they were... I on a personal level, and let me say this, whether you believe that these people are a little nuts, whether you believe these people have something spiritual going on, whatever, let's all just be grateful for the fact that you guys could hang out together and not get burned at the stake or drowned.
Yeah,
exactly.
About not even that long ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago.
Yeah, you'd be in an institution.
Or
no, there was a
burned
woman,
at the stake.
There was a woman whose husband became convinced that she was replaced by a fairy, and they drowned her.
Wow.
And this was children, which is throughout history has been very common. If you have a deformed child, it's a child of the Fae, kill it.
Right. Wow.
There's a lot of things that kind of scare you when you realize it wasn't that long ago. I was watching a really good animated show called Bojack Horseman, and this character is going through this horrible loss of her son in World War II, and it's driving her absolutely insane. And it really just made me grateful that I live in the time I do, because the best thing they could think of to do for her was give her a lobotomy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so right again.
The height of psychiatry at that time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And it's like it wasn't that long ago, and it's kind of scary to think about it like that.
Yeah, so we've come a long way, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you, guys. Like,
Well, that's why a lot of people say, like, oh, if you could live in another time other than now. No, thank you.
no, I'm good.
I enjoy working plumbing and like vaccines and
medication would be the main reason I want to live at this time.
Exactly.
Medication and proper indoor plumbing are the two reasons I'm happy with this.
Right. You know what? I even like a lot of people.
100 years ago, I'd have been put down.
A lot of people are, talk about plastics. I like plastics. Plastics protect.
Yeah.
I actually work in the wastewater field, so believe me, plastic is my friend.
Yes.
It protects
Lord,
me.
yes.
It protects me.
There you go.
And just the social, and it's the thing I find interesting because you find studies are saying that religion itself is on the decline, and the atheist and skeptical opinion community.
Well, I think
is
there's
all
a
in favor
difference
of
between
this,
religion and
but
spirituality.
I think what they don't understand, and I've tried to explain to them more than once, is in a conventional Orthodox religion is on the decline. Spirituality is on the rise.
It's absolutely on the rise.
Exactly.
Just take a look at what some of the outside culture thing is on the rise.
Right.
Well, just look at ghost shows, psychics.
Yes.
Reiki,
Horror shows.
All these horror shows, horror movies.
Everything. Yeah, it's starting to definitely on the rise, and a lot of people are starting to get more into it, as well as like I would say like Orthodox religions are going down, and
I don't think all of them will, because I think some of them are. This has happened before, and some of them are smart enough to that they're starting to adapt.
Right.
But the really hardcore one, if the inflexible hardcore ones are falling apart, and that's in my opinion that's a good thing.
There really needs to be some sort of update to things every once in a while. Some of the rules that were written back in the time of Christ would not apply today because it's a completely different culture, a different standard.
For the record, as a devout Christian, I still think one of the best moral principles it was summed up by Christ by saying, "Do as thou." Do what you want. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Right.
And every other religion mirrors it in some sense.
Yeah.
Well, if more religions could stick to those kind of simple principles, they probably wouldn't have as much trouble. It's when they try to regulate every little bit of your life.
Look at why the current
Nobody
Pope,
wants that.
No.
Perfect example. Look at the current Pope. One of the reasons he's become so popular is he publicly said, it's like, you know what? We need to start treating people with more compassion.
Exactly.
Stop treating homosexuals as
You're not my religion.
What a crazy thing for a religious leader to say.
There was a priest he said not that long ago.
Hey, love people.
Who
what? He's insane.
Oh no! People think he's the Antichrist just for saying that we should be more compassionate.
Oh, I know, and that the irony of that is like is probably lost on.
It's like,
them,
would you like? And I've even said to the people who said that, it's like, would you like me to show you where the Bible says that hating people makes you a murderer, and that murderers don't get into heaven?
Really?
It's like you want to go, and this is an Old Testament. This is New Testament standards.
Right.
Maybe you want to rethink being angry at him saying, "Hey, let's stop being dicks."
Right.
I'm just reminded of the thing Douglas Adams wrote, hardcore atheist, but he also wrote that 2,000 years ago, some guy was
nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be if we were all nicer to each other.
Yeah.
You can't make that up.
Quite. So true.
And Buddha said it. What's his name? Confucius said it. Muhammad said it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories about it. There's a famous Jewish rabbi whose name escapes me, who was told by a man, "If you can explain your entire religion's philosophy while standing on one foot, I'll convert." The rabbi proceeds to get up on one foot and says, "Do nothing to another which you would find hateful to have done to you. The rest is just commentary."
Awesome.
Goes back to 2 feet and the guy converts.
Awesome. There you go. The underlying principle.
The Old Testament summed up by a Jewish rabbi. Remember, he was like a Hasidic Orthodox, very conservative rabbi, while standing on one foot.
That's what makes it.
But then again, that's why I kind of like Orthodox Judaism, is that there's a very appreciated cultural identity with studying.
And I've had a bunch of friends of it, and they have most of the Orthodox Jews I've met have more of a sense of humor about their religion than most Christians I've met.
Yeah.
Granted, my mentor, the late exorcist Father Joe, had a great sense of humor about things, but he's the man who commented to me at one point that the entire reason God gave a donkey the power of speech in the Bible was God was playing a practical joke.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's awesome. Let me. I have a question for you guys.
Please.
Sure. Tell me a little bit more about the history of the Paranormal Encyclopedia. The name is cool.
That's mostly him. So
I would like to hear it.
So I've been interested in the paranormal since I was a kid.
Okay.
And then in college I started having experiences with the demonic and the dark side of the paranormal. When I fell out of college because I made stupid decisions. I was a kid. I came back home and I met a man by the name of Lou Gentili.
Okay.
Lou, have you ever heard of Ed Warren?
No.
Okay. Did you see either of the Conjuring movies?
No.
You know the Amityville Horror.
Right. Okay.
So the couple that investigated the Amityville Horror House when it happened was Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed was the only lay demonologist in the world recognized by the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
So the last student Ed taught was a guy by the name of Lou Gentili. Lou used to do a radio show called The Lou Gentili Show out of Philadelphia until he died in 2009. I was his co-host.
Oh, okay.
Now, back then, he'd always tease me because when I was a kid, I had no one around me who was an investigator to learn from. So I just buried my nose in every book I could find on the subject.
Okay.
And I could, he had experience I couldn't match because he'd been doing it. He'd been experiencing it since he was a kid. He had me beat there. But when a demon gave a name of some obscure pagan god or some weird ritual, I either knew it or had a book I could find it in. Wow. So he always teased me about being a walking encyclopedia. So 2 years ago, I started a YouTube channel, wanting to get back into doing radio like I am now. And I was trying to think of a name, and I got to call it Paranormal Encyclopedia to honor Lou.
Okay.
And that's where the name comes from.
I love it.
Also, I got teased a bit as a kid. You're from around my generation, so you know who Cliff Clavin was?
Yeah, right.
So I got teased about being Cliff Clavin or a walking encyclopedia as a kid. So it's kind of my way of taking some power in that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Cliff Clavin was a great character.
I know, one of my favorite things about that character, he wasn't originally in the scripts.
Really?
Right, the guy who played him showed up to audition for Norm.
Okay.
They really liked him, but they wanted to go with George Wendt.
Yeah.
But so he goes to them. Well, do you have a bar know-it-all yet? Improvised on the spot.
Really?
Yeah, John Ratzenberger basically was that character.
And they hired him, and he actually wound up improvising most of the fun facts and things he does during the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing in some of the things. Are you familiar with the show Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy?
No.
It's a cartoon show that was on that not that long ago on Cartoon Network. But one thing that always stuck out and made it kind of unique, stand out from the crowd, was the Grim Reaper had a Jamaican accent. It
is a fun show.
They originally wanted to go with British, but as soon as the voice actor came in and started doing it in a Jamaican accent, it's like,
it
no,
worked.
that has a Jamaican accent now.
This is it, it's Jamaican accent.
Well, similar thing, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Spike was originally supposed to be a cowboy.
Wow.
Yeah, James Marsters came in and he did the British accent almost by accident because he had been auditioning for another role before, so he still had the accent and he didn't realize he was doing it. And they liked it better that way.
I could not see Spike as a cowboy. Him as a punk was just the way.
Yeah, the British
right.
punk thing. They rewrote the part. They rewrote the part for him. Also, he was only supposed to be in like 6 episodes, and then he was supposed to die.
Wow.
but he was so popular
Yeah, but
they
to
had
say
him
you can't kill him.
survive.
Joker was originally a one-shot villain.
I was about to say Joker's death immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the original comic, he was supposed to be a one-shot villain. They killed him off at the end. He was so popular, the authors liked writing him so much they just brought it back.
Yeah,
They killed him
had
off. They brought it
survive.
back. And did...
Good.
Also, Lost in Space. You remember the original Lost in Space with Dr. Smith?
No of it. I never watched it.
Jonathan Harris. He was like the little old man, and he would always have the big. He would always have these insults for the robot.
Okay.
Like, oh, you mechanical, contraption of things. And he would always go. He wrote all of those.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
But going back to the Joker for a second, and
Oh,
I just wanted to say, I personally think the reason in universe that why the Joker keeps coming back is he is essentially the quintessential evil trickster. He probably keeps conning death.
Well, they actually did a storyline with that where the Joker was revealed to actually be this sort of immortal being.
It makes sense.
This incarnation of this immortal force that took on different forms over time. I don't know if that's the official canonical thing, but I know at least
Well,
Now
one
I'm just
version
thinking
did.
of
So the Joker's other
It
king.
depends
He's
on
the-
which
there you go.
reboot.
Well, he's like a god. He's like a. he
Well,
was
one,
like some
one of
kind
my
Syrian god.
favorite sort of superheroes, though he's a little dark to be a conventional superhero, John Constantine is actually kind of another kid because he's an incarnation of the spirit called the Laughing Magician.
Okay. Wow.
Because the Laughing Magician is basically his shtick. He doesn't have that much power, but he manages to thumb his nose at gods and demons just by being smart and
Going
clever.
to the underworld and call down angels. and-
kind of like Dresden, a little bit.
Good. So I mean, also like I'm a big. What do you guys feel about as far as like? Because I'm a big on technology and the way that things are like all of AI and
I have a love-hate relationship with technology.
yeah. Tell me about that.
I love it, but it seems to hate me.
I mean, I definitely as talking about times now and things being different. I definitely like where we're going. Like, just wanted to interject with Elon Musk, the flight that just happened with.
Oh, that's awesome.
The rocket, and this guy put a Tesla on top of the
Yeah,
rocket and shoots it down.
just kind of cool. Like just because
That was awesome. That was bloody awesome.
just because he could.
I have to
And
say,
he was playing Rocket.
one
Man.
of my biggest complaints
the car's playing
with
Rocket Man.
both Obama and Bush, because they both did it, was cutting the space program down.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me because it's not about like finding aliens or any of that. It's about trusting out all these new technologies,
Exactly.
doing all these things,
All
and this and
of
that.
the medical advances we've gotten from the space program that people
Yeah.
think, oh, it's just about going to Mars. It's like, no. There's experiments we can't do on Earth,
Yeah.
or we can't
Right.
do as well on Earth.
Exactly.
Well, and it also just inspires people. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
like it gives people something to believe in and
And
something
not to
to
That
mention
as well.
hope
and
for.
you would get a group of people as smart as the people who work for NASA are together. Something good is going to happen.
And tons of good things have happened, which is, I mean, I think you're right, Brian. That goal and that striving, although it's a point I've seen Neil deGrasse Tyson make, and I think there's some
Yeah.
truth to,
Yeah.
that to really get us to Mars, we're going to need more.
Yeah,
Because,
we have to advance.
it took the Cold War to get us,
Right.
to get the oomph and the national pride to get to the moon.
Yeah.
We need something like that to rally us together.
I'm gonna say a big word that we really need as a species that will help us get us to Mars. It's called cooperation.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Global.
Yeah.
And then that's a curse word, I'm sure. He's laughing.
And that's the thing, yeah.
But
We need more countries to work together.
To
Private
do something
industry.
amazing
Which,
like that, you have to work together.
Which I always thought that was a plot hole in Civil War. It's like you're really going to expect the UN to actually agree to do something.
Oh, well, that was
on this scale that quickly.
Yeah, the idea that they all agreed to something was kind of hard to swallow. But yeah,
superheroes, sure, I could buy superheroes, but the UN coming to a universal agreement that fast, that destroys the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe it, and that's a pipe dream, because I mean, you just
I have more
study
faith
evolution.
in our species. I think we can do it.
Yeah, I hope we can. I hope we can reach some type of singularity or technological advance.
The only way I can describe what I'm feeling is skeptical optimism, where I hope this is where we're going. Right. But my cynicism says that people are not going to be able to get over themselves long enough to do this.
As the older generation dies, pretty much, and the younger people take over, you're going to have more and more people that are raised with, okay, I want this.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's going to be fewer and fewer of the old people holding the purse string saying, you can't have it.
Right.
That is what I hope that we get there.
Yeah, I would like to see, I would definitely like to see, less oil. Like, do more solar power. That's the climate change argument, and I don't really want to bring that into.
We try to avoid politics.
Yeah, okay.
I'll
leave it alone.
No. I'll put it like this. I'm with you, and here's the thing. And I'll say this for our listeners as well. Something to consider. Because being a Christian bent, slightly Christian bent show, I'm imagining we have a fair number of conservative listeners. Consider this. If you do not believe humans are behind climate change, and I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptical about how much we're to do with it.
Right.
The pollution we're pumping out is its own problem we should address.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. There's lots of other reasons, let's go. I think we may not have the big role that we think we do in climate change. I still think we need to fix the problem.
Yeah. Well, no,
because I don't want the smog.
Well, this is the thing I always get. It's like, okay, so say that we're wrong and we do all this. What's the downside of fixing the planet? Really?
Yeah, right.
What is the downside?
That would be my point.
Of cheaper, more efficient energy
like,
and all this other stuff.
You mean we went and saved the planet for nothing?
Wait, you mean we're having fewer? Here you go. We're having fewer respiratory issues because we got rid of the air pollution.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Your respiratory issues.
I think there's really no reason not to at least try it. Not to at least make the effort.
Yeah, or you can fix a couple of these diseases out here and live a little longer. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. How many people have COPD and stuff now?
Exactly.
That's
like I said. I think there's a whole other argument, and it's an argument I've tried to make with people before, that I think sometimes people get very polarized. There is no climate change. There is climate change, and you need to get anything done. We've got to work to try and find a middle ground. One of my big crusades of late has been with atheists. There's the young Earth creationists and the scientists,
right?
And the young Earths particularly like to set it up as a dichotomy of, you either believe in God or you believe in evolution. When it's like, no, there's a huge middle ground here.
Right, exactly.
And trying to convince the atheists to make common cause with those of us who are like, no, we believe in God, we don't want our religion taught as science.
Right. Okay, exactly. Got you.
In my perfect educational system, my kids would learn evolution and the Big Bang and abiogenesis in science class, and then they'd have another class where they would spend time learning about Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism, because it's good to know those things relate to
humanities.
People.
Right,
exactly.
Hatred feeds on ignorance, and the enemy of ignorance is knowledge.
Exactly.
Compassion.
Also, I'd like to see more like art and music and stuff like that.
That's also why we have folks like you on, because let's demystify this stuff and let people realize, no, you're not like some crazy person who's going to axe murder them for their blood.
Yeah, it
misconceptions,
that people
Misconceptions.
think that it's this weird guy who draws attention to himself that's going to kill you, and not the guy who's going to pop in and out.
Quietly minding their own business.
Yeah.
For one, statistically, if somebody's going to kill you, it's probably somebody you already know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you wouldn't expect.
And for another, if you are unlucky enough to run across a serial killer, they act very normal.
Very,
most of the time.
very, very normal.
Yeah,
They're not
they
gonna
make a point of it.
they're not gonna give that away.
If they just went around stabbing people in
Broad daylight, somebody would arrest.
That's not such a good.
Right, even in like a
Doesn't
busy street in the night,
it
somebody
doesn't
would
last
be
very
long.
like, "What the heck?"
It's some of
It's a
the
very-
Adams family.
It's a very short career.
Yeah,
as a,
right, your
as
career.
a serial killer. It's like
I mean, one of the most interesting killers that we really need to start getting into them, because I keep talking about doing this as an episode and we haven't yet. But Ted Bundy,
Yeah,
who
right,
killed
Ted
at
Bundy.
least somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 women, probably more,
Probably
worked
more.
on a suicide hotline.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a good cover.
One of the most famous true crime writers.
She was his
Catherine-
friend.
or, yeah, Anne
Wright.
Rule.
Anne Rule.
Anne Rule.
That's
Anne
how she
Rule
started.
was close friends. They met doing the suicide hotline.
Yeah, that's how she
He was
started
talking
doing
to
true
her
crime.
and friends with her while she was writing about the murders he was committing.
Which,
That's and this is a
That's
woman who had
ironic.
worked.
which personally,
been a cop,
not
who
to
had
get
worked with
political,
police
is
officers.
why I'm personally against the death penalty, because we're taking away somebody from somebody else. We're making them suffer.
See,
Death is an easy
Well,
way
it depends on the person.
There are, I think, on the whole, I'm very leery about the death penalty because entirely too many people have been executed that were later proven innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe there are certain cases where we should have, if we had caught the son of a bitch, Hitler deserved to be put to death.
Right.
There are certain serial killers. Whether punishment or whatever, there are just some people that have lost the right to be a living, breathing person. In my opinion.
Well, also they're
But
just
you need to be really
Yeah.
damn sure you got the right
Exactly.
guy.
Sure. Right.
what we can do
Like you
is
catch the guy with the bloody knife in his hand.
there's a new movie coming out about Ted Bundy. They're making.
Yes, I
Oh
saw.
yeah, I heard about this.
Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy. That's
Oh,
going to be
that's awesome.
so freaky.
That's
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I want to see that.
He's a very interesting and very distributing.
Yeah. But I'm here and we're talking about serial killers, and I'm wearing a T-shirt promoting a video game in
Technically,
development.
She would be a spree killer, not a serial killer.
True.
It's a game called Yandere
that?
Simulator.
Yes, Yandere Simulator.
Where
Okay.
basically you're murdering all of the women who show any interest in a single older classman.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah. Basically,
Okay.
it's a crazy stalker to the extreme.
And you're
Okay.
playing this crazy stalker.
Nice.
That's my senpai. Nobody can have him. Nobody loves him as much as I do.
Really?
First person serial killer.
Basically,
It's like the high school version of the Hitman games, if you know,
Nice.
you know those.
All right. So we're getting close to the end. If you
Yeah.
have anything else,
Promote
you
all
want
the
to,
stuff you've got coming up.
Yeah, that's it. Iron Garden, QXTs. We actually have a gathering tomorrow night at QXTs in Newark starting at 9 p.m. If you can make it, please come up.
Yeah, it's like the last Friday of every
Yeah,
month.
last
right?
Friday of every month. And you can see what we do there. Again, we won't bite your neck. Dark Side of the Con, March 17th, 12 noon. The Animal Within, me and her with Sonis. And also the 18th, which is that, actually that evening, if I'm not mistaken, at 8 o'clock, we have an Iron Garden at Dark Side of the Con. We're actually going to hold it.
Oh, wow.
there.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
So that's going to be cool. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
You've been a
Yeah,
great
you-
guest.
It was great having you on.
Okay,
Thank you.
folks. It's going to wrap us up for tonight. I do want to do a couple quick things. Remember, every Thursday night, 6:30 to 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here. If you have a little bit of money and you like what we're doing, please consider helping us out by going to patreon.com/demonology. We could really use the help.
Awesome.
We do have events coming up. We'll be talking more about Dark Side of the Con for certain. And then some other things coming up as well. But that's going to do it for tonight. I want to say good night. God bless. And
Thank you.
bye.
Rock and roll.
Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan.
Awesome.